Create custom report.
Custom report, sorry. Yeah, create custom.
Okay, and I open this. Now I have to give a name. Yep, so CR underscore test underscore one. Okay. Report type will be advanced. Temporary report, I told you it will be deleted after 24-48 hours based on the settings. Enable as web service, select when you are using it for integrations, then for sure it has to be enabled. And optimize for performance. If it is checked, it will show only the data sources which are indexed. And if you want to see yours, right, let's do this. So today, let's try something else. Let's use a data source of company. Okay, nothing there. But yeah, better to use that, the other one which we were using. What was that? All active and
Terminated.
okay. I click on OK, and then we have a page where you can select the fields. Employee ID, name, then I have say date of birth, hired, location, and then we also saw that you can remove this worker and put company as well. And then you can have the ID, the reference ID of the company. Similarly, you can have here location, and you can have the location ID, or again the reference ID for that. Let's say I want location type for this. Okay, so this is just the same thing, the name, the fields, sorting, your wish, filter. Now let's say you want this report and you want all the employees which have hire date greater than, or you say you got a requirement that okay, create a report and tell us how many are the employees which are hired this year. Okay, so that means what you will do is in filter, what will be our logic? That hire date should be greater than or equal to what? 01/01/2022, right? So that means anyone hired which has a hire date of 1st January or after that is eligible for this. Okay, now I click on OK, and let's run, or I'll just test it. So if you see, these are the persons and these are their hire dates. So all of them have after 1/1. Yep. And you can have multiple filters here. There is no such thing that you can have only one condition here. You can have or conditions, like for example, you say this one. You can add another one and say location in the selection list, and you can choose, right? So now what is our condition? That all the employees hired after on or after 1/1/2022 and their location is this. So now we have and condition. So if I now run it, right? So there is no data because there is no employee with such conditions, right? Now, if I put instead of and, I make it or, in the filter, if I go here instead of and, if I make it or, and then I click on OK, now the data should come because now it's or condition. So everyone who's hired after or they have that particular location will come up. Yep. Now, if I do again an edit. So you're clear with the filter prompt, this filter tab, right? It is used to add any filter. Now there is another thing here which is called sub filter, right? So if I have to ask you what is a filter, then your answer will be that filter is to, just filter on the report output based on the fields which are part of the primary business object, right? So all this hire date, location, and whatever you want to use here, if you are using a filter, then those fields should be part of the primary business object. In subfilter, you can add condition based on the field which are part of related business object. Like here you have location, company, you can have dependents and all those stuff, right? So if you want to put a condition there, you can choose a related business object here first. Let's say company. And I can put a condition here. Reference ID equal to, you can give some value, 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that, right? So that kind of thing. So it's a very frequently asked question that when you create a custom report, what's the difference between a filter and a subfilter, right? So filter is used to filter the results based on the fields which are part of the primary business object, and subfilter is used for filtering the records based on the fields which are part of the related business object. So even though if you have used that related business object in the list of these fields or not, you can still add it there and do your filtering. Yep. And sometimes they ask which one gets executed first, filter or subfilter. We don't care about that, whatever happens, but ideally the way Workday works at the back end is it first execute subfilter and then it executes the filter. Okay, if you want to add more, you can add another one, right, for location, and you can add multiple. Add another one, and if you click on this remove button, it will remove that. Right? Clear about the difference between filter and subfilter? Okay. Now comes prompts. But before we go to prompts, let's see the other one. Output. You don't do anything here. You don't touch it. Output type remains as stable, and that's it. There is nothing to be done in the output tab. Then comes the share tab, right? So in the share tab, by default, when you create a report, the default one is don't share report definition. This means that if you've created this report, it is owned by you, the user with which you're logged in, and it is not shared with anyone. That means if you search for it, only you will be able to see it. If I search with the report name that you have created, it will not be visible to me. Why? Because it's not shared with anyone. If I click on this shared with all authorized users, then what will happen is all the users which have access to this data source, right? As part of Workday security, if they have access to this data source, which is all active and terminated worker, plus they have this view custom report and all that custom report type of permissions, then they will be able to see. Okay, meaning all the users which have the proper rights of this data source and of custom report running, viewing, editing, they will be able to view and edit this report. Then the last option here is share with specific authorized group and users. In this one, you can specify either a security group. So all the users which are part of that group will be able to view this report, or you can share it with a very specific user. Right? A very common use case. Whenever we create, what we do is we click on this share with all authorized users. Right? And if say the report is to be some business user has asked you to create a report which should give basic employee information with some filter condition, and he says that okay, you share it with me so that I should be able to run it on a daily basis. In that case, you will create this and then share it with the very specific user. Like say if I want to share it with a very specific user, then I will do like this. So now I or this employee, only these two people will have access to this report. Okay. Then comes the advanced tab. Right? In the advanced tab again, it only makes sense when you enable this, enable as web service. So if say when we created this report, then we got that option, right? And we didn't select that. But later on, if you say by mistake forgot, and now you want to make this report as web service enabled, you will just come and enable this one here. And that's it. This thing will auto populate the web service API version and the namespace, and that's it. Now it says, so whenever you enable the report as web service, what happens is whenever you have used this related business object, there is an extra thing that you need to add those related business object here. So if you just click on this, it will just show only those two. So you have to just declare them here. That's it. Now if you click on OK, it will save.
So basically, all these are like select queries, right? Selecting data,
Right.
group buying and all. So in case of parallel integrations, for example, if a file comes in, if we have to insert the data and all into
Right. So
Workday.
that's not via reports. That's separate. That's via web service. So that's separate. This is just extracting data out of Workday.
Extracting data. Okay. This is like basically select data, view, select and view.
Correct. Okay, and then one thing which I also want you to show is, let me see if it has dependent data. Right, and then does it have, okay, and say very frequent, a very common use case, say if you want to select a field and you want to read its direction, its description, there are these three dots, right? So if you see this any all locations and you want to know what will this field do, click on that, and here is the description that it returns all locations for workers primary and additional positions, include both active and inactive locations. So let's see that. Click on OK. Okay, alerts you can ignore and run. So there is no dependent data, there is location type and all location present. So now what I want to show here is that there are some fields which will have only one value, like legal name, employee ID, right? Each employee will have only one employee ID. So these type of fields are called single instance field, meaning only one value. But there are fields like dependents, there are fields like these types and locations, right? Which can be multiple. So like you see here, there are two, local office and training center, right? So these are multi-instance field. Okay, now this is fine. I hope you have understood till this part. We are left with one, which is prompts. Now, say the user which have earlier told you that, okay, I want the report with all the employees which are hired on or after 1/1/2022. But now that user says, okay, don't hard code the date, give me an option that when I run the report, at that time I should choose the date and then it should give me the result. Meaning, I want it dynamic, right? I don't want the report every time go and edit the report and change the date and then run it. Instead, it should give me an option at the time of running the report, right? So in that case, these prompts come into picture. Let me remove this location part here. Now you have to focus on this part. So how I'm making it dynamic, right? Right now we have a condition that hire date greater than or equal to value specified in this filter, which is 1/1/2022. So now if we have to change and make it dynamic, the comparison type, let's see what all values are here. So here it says value from another field or prompt the user for value, and then prompt the user for value and ignore the filter condition if the value is blank, right? So it's pretty descriptive here. Let's use this one, prompt the user for the value, and the comparison value has by default becomes a default prompt. Now that's it. This is the modification that we have to do in the filter tab. And then in the prompts, we come here and I will just check this one, which says populate undefined prompt defaults. I will just click on that and it will automatically bring it up. So hire date is the default prompt. Label for the prompt alias XML. This is for the web service thing. And default type is determine value at runtime, and then no default value. Right. So let's keep it like this, right? And you can make it as required or not required. Do not prompt at runtime. You can even give that option. In that case, what you will do is you will specify a default value, right? Let me do it one by one. So first I will say no default value and I click on OK. Now if I run it, it will ask me a date, hire date. So if I choose 01/01/2022 and click on OK, now it will run only for this date. Okay, so let's choose another one. 1/1 is this, rest all are 3/2. So if I give 3/2, then only I should get 7 records. So let me say 03. Okay, so yeah, so our prompt is working. Now if you see, if you run, then always this is coming as blank, right? So you have to enter it. Now if I have to specify a default that I should not be giving it every time, edit, go to your prompts, and then here it says no default value. Now you specify a default. So now you give it 0101 2022. Now if you click on OK, and if you run now, it will default this value, but you can change it. So it gives this value. You can directly run it, or you can change it. So if I give here a 03 and OK, so I can do that. Now there is another one. The user says, whenever I'm running that report, it should give me that date. Meaning if I'm running it today, it should show there 18th of April. If I'm running it tomorrow, the prompt should show me 19th of April. So how we will do that is, in the prompt, instead of specify default value, we will give this third option, which is determine default value at runtime. And here you can say today. So you have all these Workday delivered fields, today plus one, today minus X days, and all that stuff. We can even create our own such kind of fields, but that is our next topic. So let's do it today. And I click on OK. So now the date will come as today's date, which is 14th of April. If I run, nothing will come up. Any questions? Yes? No?
So these are predefined values today.
Yeah. Today, and you also have current moment.
So can we do it like in sequence we do, right? 6 date minus 1 or plus 1 or something. So can we even do that?
Yeah. So you have today plus 1.
Okay,
you have today plus 1 day. That kind of stuff you have. And you can create your own. That we will see tomorrow. But then, yeah, this is this one. Okay. Now you can, what I can do is I can say default value at runtime. And let me give today. And I can select here, do not prompt at runtime. So now what will happen is I'll click on OK. And if I run it, it will not ask me for the value because I have selected this do not prompt. So now if I run it, it will directly run, and that's it. Reason, because we have selected do not prompt. Edit, let's go to prompts, and then you can remove this one, make it, and you can make it required as well here. Okay, now let's say the user again has come back with a new requirement. He says, I want, right now, the condition is I am giving a value, and any person's hired on or after that date is coming up. Now he says, I want a range. I should give from date and to date, and whoever is hired on or in between that should be there in the report. Yep. In that case, what we will do? So we have to put a condition here in the filter saying hire date greater than or equal to, and prompt user for value. Yes, because we have to prompt it. Instead of default prompt, let's give another value. You can give any value here, but since it's to and from, I prefer to give. So this is my starting prompt. Then again the same date. And now here again less than. So I have greater than or equal to and less than. Again, value specified in filter. No, we want the user to prompt. So I'll say prompt user for value. And here I will give ending prompt. So now I have two prompts. One is starting and one is ending. Now again, we'll go to prompts, and whatever you have here, you just delete it. And again, just click on this populate undefined prompt default. As you do it, it will populate that. And now you can change the label, right? Like you say, this one is from date, this one is to date. Similar here, to underscore date, and here from underscore date. Okay, this is no default value, or let me say a default value. Let me specify 01/01/2022, and this one I will give that ending prompt. I will say determine default value at runtime, and I will say today. And I will make both of them required. Click on OK. OK. And run. So now if I run, now it is asking me from date and to date. I can change whatever I want, and then if I run, it will only give me that particular stuff. Clear on prompts? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. Now will you be able to create these reports?
You should be able to.
Okay. Now we have seen these what higher dates. Let's say if we want to give some prompts on other things. Let me go edit, right? Filter again. Let's say now I want on location as well. Location. Frequently used in the selection list, and instead of value specified, I will say prompt the user for value, and here I will say default prompt. Okay, now you go to prompts and then again check this. Now your default prompt will come up. Fine, no default value, keep it okay. And now if you run, it will give you that prompt as well. So location you can choose. So let me choose, what was that, Melbourne. Click on OK, and then you get all this stuff. Now let's move to the next topic. Fairly complex one and all that. Where now the business user which gave you this requirement, right? There is another system, say an external system is there, which is saying that that system needs the same data, but in an XML format, and he needs a web service. Okay, meaning we should give him a link. He should call that link in his web browser, give the user ID password, and that's it. He should get the data. Now to do this stuff, if say you are using any other ERP like PeopleSoft, Oracle, SAP, anything, what do you think? We will have to write a code and do some build, right? How much time will it take? Approximate.
I think based on the fields they need, we have to create XML, and then we need to expose those, right? So
Right. So you are from PeopleSoft background?
no, I am from Java background.
Right. In Java also, when you say you have to create, say you have a query, right, which gives you data. Now you have to expose that as a web service. It takes time. right?
Yes.
You
Yes.
need to write some code and all that.
Code. Yeah.
Now that's where I love Workday the most. Now say we have created this report, right? Which is fairly simple.
Okay.
Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
Now the same data has to be exposed as web service, right? So we
Yeah.
have to make sure that in the advanced tab we have enabled this.
As a web service.
Now that's it. Now it will take 30 seconds to expose it as a web service. So you click on this related action, go to web service, click on view URLs, and you select your, like, this is just the that parameter you will give, and okay. Now you have all these options. If the vendor says I want a JSON web service, that when I call that web service it should give me JSON data, then what you do is you copy this URL and give it to him. If he says I want CSV data, you copy this URL and give it to him. If he says he wants some Google data related stuff, okay, you get it. If he wants RSS, which is I think for showing it on a mobile screen and all those kind of stuff, right? There, you just copy this URL, give it to him. If it's a simple XML, right? Let's try with this XML. The vendor says I want XML using the web service. So you copy this URL, right? Now I will open another incognito tab and then here paste, enter. Now it is asking me this password. So I will give them the password and that's it. You got the data. Right. And then you just click on that. Okay, where is this? Say I copy URL and then I will put that and then the JSON got downloaded. Right. So let me show it up. So this is where it came up. All that data. These were our fields and it came up. Yep. So that's how simple Workday is. Even this technical part of kind of exposing it as a web service is just a 30 seconds job. No coding.
Shravan, I'm having one query here. So if we take this as a reverse, as you mentioned that if we want to expose it, we have to create a user, okay, and need to provide that. Let's say from Workday via AIC integration, it goes to some other app which is consuming, and we want to see the response, like we are trying to debug something, or we wanted to know if there is some failure or something. So while seeing the response, if we will ask them to share the same thing, right? So for seeing that, do we need username password? Like for us as a Workday, like we have sent the request, okay, and some app is consuming, and we noticed that there is some issue. So we wanted to know whether
now they will. It is from our side that service is exposed.
Okay,
Now
and they
they
are
are
going to
calling that service. Correct. They are going to consume it, call it. Whatever error if they get, they will get that error in their system, and then they will have to reach out to us that okay, we are facing this error, because we will not be able to know. From our side, it's just a service which is exposed. If they are facing any issue while calling that service and all that, then they have to let us know. In Workday, we will not be able to know that what error they are getting unless they tell us this is the error.
Okay, sorry. So I got your point. My question was there only, like when what actually they would be sharing to us. Let's say they got the error. It would be the same XML format only, same response.
It will be like, it will be general error like authentication error or authorization error, that kind of stuff.
Okay,
will come up.
Sure, got it.
Okay, so that was the sharing of report, which is done via this related action, web service and view URL, and that's it. Now let's see what are the other options we have. So one is this configure alert. That means that when you run this report, right, run frequency, you can schedule it to kind of run and it will alert you in your, where you will get the alert is here. You see this bell icon, like document is available. So what will happen is this integration will run and this kind of data will be available. A kind of a CSV file or an Excel file will be available. Okay, let's see that. For searching our report, RDCR underscore text. Okay, which is this one. So if you see, there are one is report and one is report definition. So if you click on the report, it will directly run it. If you click on the report definition, it will open it. It will open the report like this. Okay. So let me go here, custom report, configure alert. This is the name. I will say run now. Okay. So it will ask you to whom do you want to alert, right? So this report has parameters. So you have to specify the parameters, what it should be the from date, to date, location, and then recipient, who should get the alert. And then it can also send an email, right? So you can write the subject and then the body and then click on OK. So what will happen is when this report will run, once it completes, it will send a kind of this alert to them, right? From an integration point of view, we don't use this because our reports are used for integrations. We don't create reports for any user as such. That's a separate team. That's functional team which will do that. Okay, so that was configure alert. Then you have copy, which we have seen. Maintain Excel template is not used. You can attach a template, and I think this report will run and populate that. But I have never used it, and not the very frequent use case that you will do. Then you have run. Then you have schedule. Schedule is you can put a schedule here, like say I want this for a daily recurrence, right? You click on daily recurrence, click on OK, and then you choose, first you give the report parameters, and then in the schedule, you can choose every weekday or every, say if I give it every 2, that means every 3 days, and then you give the time. Say I choose 7 a.m. EST, and then start. When do you want to start it? I want it to run from tomorrow till end of this year or end of this month. So what will happen is, once you click on OK, this recurrence will start executing based on the criteria which you have given here. Okay, every 3 days, 7 a.m. EST, and it will execute on its own. You don't have to manually run the report. So that's scheduling a report. We have similar feature on integration. So yeah, this is the same for report as well. Yep, clear on scheduling. We never use schedule reports for integration, but yeah, this is good to know feature. Okay, then you have this test, which will give only first 10 instance of the report. Then you have transfer ownership, right? So now if you see here in the share tab, who is the report owner? I am the report owner because I have created it. Now say I want to transfer this ownership to another user. I can do by clicking on transfer ownership, and I can specify any other user, right? You can specify, click on OK. And once I click on OK, what will happen is, right now I'm doing a discard, but this report owned by will change. Okay. That's on that. And then we have, then it is delete audit. So for any report or any object in Workday, if you want to see what has happened, who created it, who did the update, who modified it, this is the option. This is there for every business object. View audit trail. Click on that, give the date range. Like say I want to give from 1st of Jan 2022 till now, who has done on this report. So nothing has happened on this report because we created it today. But you get a full sequence of the things what happened on this object. Okay, calculated fields. That's our next topic. Favorites, you can add this report as your favorite one. Integration ID, view ID is every object in Workday has an ID, reference ID. So for this report, this is the ID. By default, whatever name you give becomes the ID. Then what else do we have? Layout, again, we don't use it. Reporting is, again, nothing here. Schedule feature processes. Nope. Copy alert, solution create. So solution create is for migrating this report to another tenant, right? We will see that as part of integrations. But yeah, apart from that, translations, you don't use it. That's it. This is the high level and which is needed for the integrations for creating an advanced report. Now, this doesn't mean that this is the last time we are seeing a custom report. We will be seeing it very frequently in the coming sessions again, when we will be doing the calculated fields. Next topic will be calculated fields. There again, we will create. Now, what are calculated fields is, suppose, right, we run this report and I click on OK. Again, I have to think here. Okay, now if you see the data is in very specific format. However, like whatever data is in Workday will come up like this. So you see the hire date is this format, mm/dd/yy. But say the other system to whom you are exposing it as a web service needs it in some other format, right? Or say employee ID. The system wants that you append underscore test in the end of, so it will be employee ID underscore test. Then they want only the first 5 digits of this reference ID, or they want only whatever is there after any specific, after the underscore, right? All these kind of things can be done using the calculated field, which will start tomorrow. Cool, then have a nice rest of the day. Take rest.